All right, everybody. Good late morning. Hope you guys are still doing well on this Victory Monday. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff to talk about coming from that win yesterday. But I want to take a moment to celebrate something that did happen yesterday, but also has been happening this whole season. And it's it's all about JSN, right? Jaxon Smith-Njigba having an incredible season, the kind of season that you're probably only going to have once. And I'm not saying JSN is going to be a one-hit wonder. He's going to have a great career. Hopefully the whole thing is in Seattle. Hopefully he goes to the Hall of Fame, gets his number retired and all that. But this kind of excellence is so difficult to accomplish. We're probably only going to see it at this level this one time. So appreciate it while it's here. And yesterday, he set the Seahawks season receiving yards all-time record. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today. Get to it and go have some fun with sports this year. So most people are already aware of this because they talked about it during the game. The announcers mentioned it. But JSN has broken the franchise record set by DK Metcalf in 2020. DK Metcalf had 1,303 receiving yards. JSN is now at, I believe, 1,313 yards. So he's got it. And there are 6 games left. And that's kind of the crazy thing here, right? He has broken the record, and he has done it using a number of games that in my lifetime and in the lifetime of my parents has not even ever been a full season. So it's definitely something to call out. It's definitely something to give massive kudos for, and I love it. I love every second of it. And here's the thing, where does it go? And I'm sure most people also know that JSN is not just chasing franchise records, he's chasing history. So let's take a look at some stuff here. I took a look at some of the JSN numbers and compared them to all-time records and Seahawks records. Although I will say the Seahawks records are largely immaterial because he's either already got them or he's almost certainly going to get them. Barely even worth talking about. But let's go ahead and talk about it. Let me bump that up here. So right now, 80 catches, on pace for 124. Let's just call it 124. Current Seattle record is 100, set by Tyler Lockett in, I believe, 2020, and then JSN last year. So if JSN plays these next 6 games, he's going to destroy this record. He's going to destroy it by over 20 catches. He only has to average 3 1/3 catch per game the rest of the season in order to break the record. So he's at 80, going to get to 100. His current pace per game, by the way, is 7 1/4. And real quick, although I think this is out of reach, it's actually technically not out of reach. It is out of reach for this particular team and the way they play football. The all-time NFL record for catches in a season is 149. JSN would actually meet that if he can average 11.5 catches over the last 6 games of the season. And in this offense, we don't throw the ball enough for JSN to average 11.5 catches a game. And when you look at some of the opponents we have, yeah, some of them are good. Some of them not so much. I don't think any of the teams we play, except maybe the Colts, is going to run up the score in our defense to the point where we have to air the ball out the whole game. I maybe the Colts could, because their offense is something special, but other than that, and even with the Colts, I don't actually think that's going to happen. So it's a long shot, but hey, maybe next week he'll have like 15 catches against the Vikings, and then we'll have to take notice of this. Now, receiving yards. This is the one that a lot of people are talking about. So as of right now, 1,313 yards, averaging just under 120 receiving yards a game. Now, he already has the Seattle record. He already broke the old record, so nothing to say there. His current pace at just under 120 receiving yards per game is 2,029 receiving yards. His pace is to break the 2,000-yard barrier, which has never been done by a pure receiver in NFL history. The best any pure receiver has ever done is Calvin Johnson in 2012, 1,964. And in order to break that record, JSN only needs to maintain a pace of 108.5 yards per game. So call it 109. 109, he breaks the record. And as you can see, he is on pace to go even beyond that. There have, of course, been players in NFL history that have had over 2,000 scrimmage yards. So let me set the stage for this next category I want to talk about here. So I find people don't talk about this one as much as they should, because this one's actually pretty interesting. Because JSN also is on pace to have about 50 rushing yards this season. He's gotten some carries, and he's probably going to end up around 50 rushing yards. Currently, all-purpose yard, or scrimmage yards, I should say, 1,350. So he's averaging about 123 scrimmage yards per game. The Seattle record for a receiver, specifically a receiver, is the DK record from 2020. So, of course, JSN already has that locked up. The NFL record for a receiver with scrimmage yards is 1,965 by Cooper Kupp in 2021. So, Calvin Johnson did not have any rushing yards in 2012, so the record actually goes to Kupp. He edges Calvin Johnson out by 1 yard. And in order to break this record, the only thing JSN needs to do is average 102.5 scrimmage yards per game. And he's currently averaging over 122. So he is well on pace to do that. By the way, if things keep going at the rate they are going, JSN's going to get close to 2,100 scrimmage yards, which would crush the old record by over 100 yards. 2,086 is where he's currently projected to land. And there have been plenty of players to get more than that many scrimmage yards in a season before, but none of them have been wide receivers. They've all been running backs. Or in some cases, some of them are kind of sort of hybrids like Marshall Faulk. I think that Roger Craig was up there a couple times. Ricky Watters was up there. That's very different, though. JSN is a pure receiver. He lines up in the backfield every now and then. It doesn't really mean much. He's a receiver. Everybody knows it. Ricky Watters is not a receiver. Roger Craig is not a receiver. JSN has a chance to shatter this record. In fact, he has a chance to shatter it by so much. He actually is on pace to do it in 16 games. So there are going to be a lot of people who say, oh, JSN had the extra game, and he did, compared to Calvin Johnson, although not actually compared to Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp had 17 games when he did it, so you can't even really say it there. But JSN is on pace to break Cooper Kupp's yards from scrimmage record for a receiver in 16 games. So what are you going to say then, right? Not much. I don't think you're going to be able to say too much then. And look, JSN, yeah, he's going to get 17 games, but he's sitting out the second half and fourth quarter of some of these blowouts. So when you compare it to Calvin Johnson, a guy who was on a terrible Lions team that was pretty much never blowing anybody out, well, it's actually pretty darn good. So 2,100 scrimmage yards for JSN is on the table. And if it happens, just keep in mind, he's doing it on a team that barely throws the ball. This is not some high-volume passing attack where we just throw the ball to JSN 30 times a game. No. We throw it at a rate that is lower than almost every other team in football. Sam Darnold is probably going to end this season averaging fewer than 30 dropbacks per game. And JSN is doing this. All right. Wanted to talk about that. We're going to have the all-time greatest franchise season by a wide receiver ever when this is all said and done. And quite possibly, we're going to have some records. He's not going to get anything with touchdowns, really. He might end up with double-digit touchdowns if he keeps going, which would be cool, but you know, the bringing down touchdowns is obviously not the strongest part of JSN's game, and I think we're all cool with that. So, hey, awesome stuff. Hoping he can keep it up. Hoping he can keep it rolling. And if he pulls this off, they're going to talk about this season as one of the all-time great receiver seasons. I've always thought that Cooper Kupp in 2021 had the greatest season by any receiver ever because not only did he win the Triple Crown, not only did he do all that crazy stuff in the regular season, he also had an incredible postseason and then won Super Bowl MVP. And then, of course, you've got the other great ones, guys like, of course, Calvin Johnson. JSN has a chance to be up there with those guys. And for a guy who was more or less expected to be a pure slot coming out of college, pretty darn incredible. All right, more videos coming later. We're going to do snap counts. We're going to do Pro Football Focus in the afternoon. If we get any news today about injuries, I'll make a video about that as well. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Have a great day.